Hello, I'm Dave and this is Fiver, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Today we're at the pretty village of Minterne Magna in Dorset. It's located about halfway between Dorchester, which is 10 miles away to the south, and Sherborne, which is about 10 miles away to the north. The A352 passes through it. And we're going to be walking a roughly 6-mile circular route, starting from Minterne Magna and then heading east, joining the Hardy Way, up the side of Gales Hill and Ridge Hill to the village of Buckland Newton. We'll have a little exploration around there before initially heading north and then west all the way back to the Dogbury Plantation and the hill fort, and then finally back down to Minterne Magna. Well, before I start, I thought I'd have a quick look to see what our friend Sir Frederick Treves had to say about the village in his 1906 book, Highways and Byways in Dorset. Got to wear my glasses for this. High up among the hills over Hermitage is Minterne Magna, the great Hintock of Thomas Hardy's novels. The village itself is of little interest, being made up of a church and a few modern cottages, but its situation is most charming. It lies in a shady dip between the summits of Dogbury Hill and High Stoy on the southern slope of the range. From the crest of High Stoy is a view of the north, the east and the west, which is not likely to be forgotten. It embraces the north of Dorset, the south of Wiltshire, and ranges over Somerset to Glastonbury and the Mendip Hills. Actually, it's interesting that Treves suggests that Minterne Magna was the inspiration for Great Hintock in Thomas Hardy's The Woodlanders, which was published in 1887. Joan Begbie, in her 1936 book Walks in Dorset, also suggested the same, but I have seen other sources that indicate that, well, both Great Hintock and Little Hintock might have been based on Melbury Osmond and Melbury Samford. Who knows? Anyway, let's kick off the walk. We'll have a look firstly at the beautiful church which is in front of me here. And it's the Church of St Andrew. Now, there was a Saxon church on the site. In fact, some of that forms part of the present chancel. The nave and chancel was rebuilt in the 15th century and the north chapel added in 1610. In 1800, the tower was rebuilt and restored in 1894 along with the rest of the church. I think it's got 2 bells. Oh, we'll have a very quick peep inside. It's very dark in here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. There's the font on the right hand side there, and then just through the nave, a few stained glass windows in the nave, and there's the pulpit, which is wooden, on the left, and then through to the chancel with a splendid stained glass window above the altar there. And then just to the side, this must be the northern side, a little chapel with a beautiful stained glass window and some very impressive memorials around the side. Now, Minterne Magna gets its name from, well, the Minterne bit is Old English for mint house, mint and urn, which is building, and the Magna bit means large. There's actually a little village to the south of here called Minterne Parva, which is, well, Parva is small. Now, just by the church is Minterne House, which is obviously the main building in the village. It's open to the public. You have to pay to get in. I don't think we're going to see too much of it at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll do our main walk, and hopefully if we get a bit of time, we'll be able to go into Minterne House and the gardens at the end. and then I'll tell you a little bit about it and its history then. Okay, well, we're going to leave Minterne Magna and initially head eastwards. Now, I parked my car in a little car park opposite the church. It's well, the car park's really there for Minterne Gardens, but there is a little sign that says walkers can use it just for a small donation. Oh, just crossed a little ford over what I think is the River Cerne. Its source is just to the north of here. The actual river itself is 10 miles long and eventually flows south to join the River Cerne at Dorchester. A little update on the route. So we're heading in a sort of easterly, northeasterly direction. Now that path over to my left, that's the path that will be coming on the homeward route. We're going to carry on heading uphill in that direction. I just stopped to catch my breath and look back towards Minterne Magna. There's a fantastic view of Minterne House, the ancestral home of the Dogbury family. Whew. It's a really glorious day, blue skies, hardly a cloud up there. It's quite warm, it's a lot hotter than I was expecting. The forecast wasn't quite so high in temperature as this, but we've got plenty of water, both for myself and Fiver, but we'll be a bit careful. But oh, the views from up here, they really are quite stunning. So again, this is looking back down into the valley. I can just about make out the tower of the church, and then obviously there's Minterne House, and then just looking further south, just further sort of, well, Cerne Abbas is a little bit further south behind that hill with its famous giant, which of course we've visited before. If you haven't seen that video, do check it out. Well, we've just come through a lovely little shaded bit of woodland. It looks like we're now on a section of the Hardy Way, an old friend of ours, a 220-mile long distance path that sort of stretches its way through Dorset, linking places that have got a connection with author and poet Thomas Hardy. And it starts at Higher Bockhampton, where he was born, and finishes at Stinsford Churchyard, where his heart is buried. Well, it's definitely a blackberry season now. Now, my old walking companion Logan would have loved all of these. They'd be stripping them off the bushes, but Fiver, funnily enough, he just doesn't, no, he's just not interested in blackberries at all. Oh well, all dogs are different. Oh, what a beautiful sight. Very much the time of year. Crops all golden now. We've not had much rain this year, so I wonder what the yields will be like. It won't be long, I guess, before this will be harvested. Another little update on the route. We're now on the side of Gales Hill. Had a little detour, took a wrong path, but we're back on track now. Just crossed a busy road and we're now heading down towards Buckland Newton. A little stop for some water. So I haven't come across that many streams so far, so we'll make sure we have plenty of water stops today. Just looking back at the little ridge, Gales Hill, that we're coming down. Really is quite gorgeous countryside. And this is where we're heading to. So that must be Buckland Newton down there. So we're going to go along the side of this ridge just on my left. I keep stopping for these views. So I'm coming down the side of Ridge Hill, which is on my right, looking down into this quite exquisite valley. Now, just at the top of Ridge Hill, I can't see it from where I am, but if you look at a Google aerial pic, you'll see what looks like a little private airstrip. Well, we've just made our way into the pretty village of Buckland Newton. And this little sort of triangle here, if you look back at an old map, there was a village pound here. And indeed, they've still got a little sort of plaque commemorating it today. It's where sort of loose animals would have been impounded and in the pound until they were reclaimed either by their owners or sold at auction. But it's a gorgeous little village. It gets its name from, well, Bockland is Old English for charter land or land with special privileges. The Newton bit comes from the town of Sturminster Newton, which is to the northeast of here. At one time, the 100 of Sturminster Newton and Buckland Newton were combined. Well, there's the quite magnificent manor house. Part date to the 17th century, but most of the house dates to the early 19th century. And it's very much one of those early but successful examples of a revival of the Tudor style. It looks quite splendid in the sunshine, doesn't it? And this is the church in the village, the Church of Holy Rood. It has a 13th century chancel. The nave, west tower, north and south aisles and south porch all date to the 15th century. And there were restorations in the early 19th century and again in 1869. Now, Arthur Mee, in his book King's England, Dorset, published in the 1930s, gave an excellent description of the church. The church has a 13th century chancel, but a much older relic of the past is now enshrined above the door. A comparison of the nave and chancel shows well the contrast in styles of building in 200 years, the chancel being much simpler. It has several corbel heads, which are thought to represent Henry III and his queen, the bishop who consecrated the 13th century church, the lord and lady of the manor of that day, and the master mason who built the chancel. The 15th century builders raised the nave and gave it the beautiful windows and the elegant arcades. They gave it, too, a font carved with flowers. Men of other centuries added their ornaments. The porch has a carved and vaulted Tudor ceiling of mellowing sandstone, and above it, reached by a narrow winding stair, is a pleasant room with a fireplace, from which other steps lead to the roof. As the Abbot of Glastonbury used to be rector of Buckland Newton, monks would probably come over from the abbey to preach and spend the night in this room. The porch has a square sundial placed crookedly on its embattled walls, for the curious reason that the church is not exactly built east and west. Well, this beautiful house here, called Elkins, used to be a pub. It shows us on an old map as the New Inn. I think it was built in the 17th century. I love the thatch. And this is the pub, the Gaggle of Geese. Now there's been a pub here for over 150 years, and it shows on an 1887 map as the Royal Oak Inn. Now they used to have auctions of geese here, so they changed the name in the 1970s. Now fortunately the pub's literally just opened, and seeing as we're passing by we ought to pop in, purely for research purposes for the video of course. Well folks, here we are in the beer garden of the Gaggle of Geese, just checking out their ale, Doom Bar. Oh, lovely. Now, Fiver doesn't like crisps, so it's going to have to be some doggy treats. I'll tell you what, a beautiful setting. A perfect timing. Oh, I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this. Well, suitably refreshed after that pint, we're leaving Buckland Newton and initially heading north out of the village towards a reservoir. Well, there's the reservoir over to my right. There's some beautiful views looking over to the north. So I think our footpath heads down the side of this fence. It's difficult to tell because there's no waymarker as far as I can see, but certainly in that direction. Well, a little update on the route. We're continuing to head westwards towards Lyons Head Farm. Just come down a section of footpath that, well, let's just say it hasn't been used for quite a while, full of brambles. I mean, I don't know if you can see there, my arms are ripped to shreds. Hopefully that's the worst of it. Well, another little pit stop, folks. I can just see, I think right on the horizon on the hill there, that's that reservoir where we were. And we sort of made our way, I say, going westwards. And then this is just looking over to the north. And it really is your typical Dorset rolling countryside. And the grass, well, looking quite brown now. I say we've had so little rain. So we're now going to head into a bit of woodland called, I think it's called the Dogbury Plantation. Actually, I think this is an even better view from up here, very much on the side of Dogbury Hill, looking over to the north. There's a lovely breeze up here which is cooling me down, which is just what I needed. Well, I'm just coming off Dogbury Hill. It's one of the highest points in Dorset, well over 800 foot above sea level. And it was once a filming location for the 1999 film Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Now I was going to do a little detour to the north to check out a hill fort, but I'm running a bit low in time. We were a bit longer at the pub than I was expecting. We need to get back to Minterne House before it closes. But let me tell you a bit about the hill fort anyway. Well, the rampart varies from 3 foot to 7 foot high and about 7 yards wide, and an outer ditch of up to 7 yards deep. Now there's a bank of about 130 yards which runs northeast, and there's some remains of a sort of round angle to the southeast end. The earthworks do seem to fade out to the north though, and there's been so much quarrying over the years to the southwest, which makes it very difficult to work out how big it was, but it looks oval shaped, and there may well have been a causewayed entrance to the southeast, but experts aren't 100% sure of its function. I mean, it might have been an enclosure or an incompleted hill fort, but looking at it now, it might even just have been a cross dyke. Well, we followed a footpath off the hill, nearly to the main road, and that building through there, I'm just about to see, is the old Minterne Magna school, with a date of 1860 on the wall. I think it closed as a school in 1935. Well, very much on the homeward leg now, following a footpath in a field that sort of runs parallel to the River Cerne, and this should take us back to Minterne Magna. Well, back at that ford again, so sort of a chance to have a drink and get your paws wet, cool down. Quite refreshing. The River Cerne at its early stages. Well, we've made it back to Minterne Magna in time to have a quick look round Minterne House Gardens. You can see the quite magnificent house behind me. Well, Minterne House is the ancestral home of the Digby family. The estate was owned by Cerne Abbey, which is to the south of here, from about AD 987. But after the dissolution of monasteries, it all passed to Winchester College, who in the early 17th century leased it to Sir John Churchill, father of the first Sir Winston Churchill. The actual estate, which I think covers 85 hectares, was then sold to Admiral Robert Digby in 1768, and it's still owned by Lord Digby today. I think he's the 13th Lord Digby, not sure. And the main house that you see today was built between 1904 and 1906 on the site of an earlier Victorian building. And shortly after Robert Digby bought the house, he started to landscape the park and gardens. And the garden today is one of the finest in Dorset, originally landscaped in the manner of Capability Brown. And I believe there's a unique collection of rhododendrons and azaleas, as well as cherries, maples and many rare trees. There are also some lovely small lakes and waterfalls. Now, whilst the house is private, the gardens are open to the public. I think it's £10 entrance for adults between February and November. And dogs are allowed on leads. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We thought we'd do the end scene here in Minterne Gardens. What a beautiful setting. What a glorious walk today, and the weather, well, it's been very hot. We're just off to the cafe for some light refreshment. We hope you liked the walk. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Good boy. Come on, let's get some shade.
Yeah, that's our job this weekend, because all the excursions are online now, so we're